all for coming to our show, A Midsummer Night's Dream. Just really, really so proud of all the actors. Let's give them another hand. Thanks to you all for being such an amazing audience too. We couldn't have this without you. Without the audience, there is no show. So thank you so much for being here and supporting us. I also want to thank our sound artist, Stretch, over here on the guitar. And Darnell Hill in the back. He's been running our music. Thank you, Darnell. I want to thank a huge thank you to Dr. Curry, the chaplain here, for letting us use this beautiful space, second year in a row. Thank you so much. Thanks to Steve Everett for all the work you've done in supporting us. Thanks for Shakespeare. Woo-hoo! Yeah. And now we have time for about 15 minutes of question and answer. So if there's anything you want to ask the guys about being a part of this group, about the play itself, different themes that you were interested in, or different things about their characters, you have about 15 minutes to do a Q&A. So I'm going to invite the guys back out here. And everybody's character is written on the program that you've got, but would it be helpful if everybody said their name and the character they play? Yeah? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
There's one other person I'd like to acknowledge is Laura Bowman. Would you stand up, Laura? In the very back. Laura is in charge of all the programs and volunteers coming into St. Quentin. So without her assistance, it would be very difficult to use.
Yes, thank you, Laura, for always supporting us. And so now I want to see if, why don't we go down the line and have each of the actors say their name, what role they played, briefly. Okay? So, yeah, so why don't you shout it out, guys? Michael, you want to start?
I get some of this.
Sure. Yeah. So, Michael?
Michael Willis, Pug.
Ronan. Bottom!
Michael Evans, Demetrius.
Aaron O'Connor, Oberon.
Troy Williams, Aegis, Mustard Seed, and Snow.
Michael Anthony, Flute, and Frisbee. And Cowboy.
John Edlett, Theseus, and Peace Blossom.
Henry Montgomery, Peter Quince.
Linnea George, Hermia.
Leslie Courier, Hippolyta, and Titania.
Steve Negretti, Robert Starling, and Moonshine.
Julian Paget, Lysander.
And my name is Soraya Keating, and I played Helena, and I directed the show as well. Question for our actors. Yeah, in the green shirt.
I just want to say this is the second production of you guys have seen. They've both been wonderful. And how long have you been working on this one?
Who wants to answer that?
You.
Okay, thank you for the compliment. I'm glad you enjoyed both shows. And we've been working on this one since September last year. Yeah, it's gotten postponed several times. But here we are. All right, next question. Yes.
Do you have any idea of the next production?
It's been the buzz, but I don't think we have had that discussion yet. We'll probably have that soon. Yeah. Yeah. Kevin?
Did you consider using Mendelssohn's music instead of the Spanish?
No, I didn't. I purposely wanted a kind of world flavor. To not have this set in any particular period, but have more of a worldly. That's why I chose music from different parts of the world. Yeah. Kevin?
Mine is for Steve.
You would.
You guys have never been on stage before. How was it your first time?
Go on, Steve. You go first.
I was scared. The drinking helped. Every actor needs something to get him through it.
He's a natural, huh?
For me, I wasn't so much nervous. I don't think I did that. I was only nervous for my first couple lines. After that, I mean, we rehearsed so much on the yard and once a week with the whole group. So I think after the first couple lines, it just kind of.
Use the mic, they're recording.
Great. Any other questions? Yes.
Tell me about the props. Is it correct that this is the first year that you've been able to use props on the show, or do I understand that correctly? Yeah.
We did use props last year. Maybe Leslie, you want to answer that question. Leslie's the managing director of Marin Shakespeare Company and also playing Titania and Hippolyta.
Last year, the men devised some props and a few costumes themselves. This year, Steve Emmerich, the arts and corrections guru, was able to get permission for us to bring in a few props and costumes. We had to bring them in, check them in every time, check them out every time, bring them back every time, check them out every time. And some of the things that you saw were created here, like the sword.
Like John's blood.
And the lantern. The paint. Oh, and the backdrops, of course, are set so beautiful.
John!
Yeah, maybe the artist can stand out. I'm sorry.
Take a bow. Take a
Thank
bow.
you. You are amazing. They do that like snap of an eye, how fast that they create beautiful pieces like that.
With the props and costumes, we had to come up with our list about a month ago in order to get it approved. So when we came up with new creative ideas in rehearsal of things that we might want, we weren't able to put them on the list. So we had to plan ahead quite a bit.
But I do think the props and costumes are really helpful in creating the magical worlds of the play. I know sometimes just one little piece, like the pink scarf I was wearing, you know, just having that, or the eyeglasses.
The lipstick.
And the lipstick. So just one thing, it's amazing what it can do to you know, create that magical space that we're creating up here on stage. Other questions? Yes?
Are you planning on doing anything like West Side Story type thing? Get up to date?
Oh man.
West Side Story. What do you think, you guys?
Only if you're Maria.
You're a jet from your first cigarette.
Yeah, we haven't talked about doing a musical like that, but yeah, we're going to have that conversation pretty soon about what would be next.
Well, I don't mean necessarily musical, but I mean a Shakespeare thing is
Updated, yeah.
A non-Shakespeare play, you mean?
West Side Story is based on Romeo and Juliet.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, like a...
This was updated a little bit. It's the fairy rap lullaby, for example, was it William Shakespeare, the challenge dance to beat it, you know, was a creation of these guys. So, and some of the characters were a little more contemporary.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great thing about Shakespeare. You can set it in any time period, and it has these universal themes.
But we do think that one of the great things about this program is Shakespeare's words, is studying Shakespeare's words. And there's so many beautiful phrases that have so much meaning in them. Maybe you guys want to speak to that a little bit, just the language of Shakespeare.
Yeah, I actually, I'm an MC, a lyricist. And when I grew up, I used to, you know, hear people like Shakespeare, and I was like, what is this thing with this Shakespeare thing? You know, I never really got into it. And I came to a couple of classes, the guys had asked me to come by and check it out. And Mr. Luke Patrick, he gave me a book with the complete works, and I read some of the sonnets, and it just blew my mind. It was like, if he could have been here today, he would have been like the #1 rapper. Yeah.
It was language for me too. I studied the sonnets and I wrote a few myself, and I just fell in love with it. And my favorite lines, the first Shakespeare play I've seen in here, we happy few, we band of brothers. JP. That's what I get out of Shakespeare, definitely.
For me,
it was working with Jonathan Gonzalez and Aldo Billingsley and doing 7 Ages of Man. And I learned so much about myself as a result of that, that I went back to school and got my GED, and I graduated Thursday with my AA degree. So, this woman here is extraordinary because she trusts us. She really allows us to explore the character and bring it to life according to our vision. So thank you, Soraya.
For me, I started the Shakespeare class. It was JB and I, the only two guys that did it, period. And it started out as a class, an actual studying the works of Shakespeare, learning the words, understanding what they mean, like, you know, wherefore art thou, Juliet? Everybody says they're looking for each other. It's not the case. The case is he's asking her where her alliance is. That's nothing to do with looking for each other. And I learned that. I learned a bunch of other things that were really pertinent. And then one day, Jonathan Gonzalez said, you know what? You guys should put this on. I know this guy named Aldo Billingsley, who is quite talented, and I'd like to bring him in and show you guys how it works. So the first acting that we really got to see was Mr. Billingsley. He came in and did Othello, and quite a memorable scene it was. I mean, he grabbed the guy and threw him around like a rag doll. We're all, can you do that? Oh my God. Waiting for the alarm to go off, the whistles, you know. Yeah, he's picking him up and throwing him up. That's kind of cool. And so we kind of learned that the language also reflects the people, the heart, the soul of man. And we were blown away by it. And I was bitten. And I saw this little guy right here running around, writing, trying to learn things, understand things, grasp more, learn more. And I said, you want to learn something tough? He goes, yeah. I said, come on down here and check out Shakespeare. And he came down and it was instant. He didn't stand a chance.
Other questions? Denise.
Well, you say that you had the liberty to bring a lot of your own stuff into your characters. I guess a couple of people, like Luke, a list. You started out with the list, and then it seems like that when your senses were overtaken by the flower juice, the list went away, and then it came back later. So maybe talk a little bit about that, or maybe our Demetrius as well. You have a little Jim Carrey in you, don't you? What's your decision there, or your process?
See, I just wanted to. I couldn't play Lysander as it is routinely, not routinely, or normally played as one of the lovers, and that basically is due to some restraints that are here. So I had to figure out a way to be Lysander still and go through the arc, the transformation of who he was in the beginning, from there where he transforms himself to who he really wants to be. This is who he is, and Puck and Oberon released the real Lysander. And I wanted to stay away from Don Pedro the last time, who kind of elicited some of those same mannerisms as Lysander, how Lysander to me is normally played. So I wanted to give him just a little bit more flavor, a little bit more something different. He's a young boy in love with being in love, and when he gets the potion, he's more of, I'm sure of myself, I know who I am, and she's mine, and you're not gonna have her. So I had to respect the rules and regulations here, and then again, navigate and find a way to be vulnerable and release the Lysander that I could work with. And Linnea was very helpful with that. So, that was basically a lot of the choices. I was just trying to be Lysander and not go outside where I couldn't go outside. So I hope that came across.
Because he's not like doing Pedro, right?
And Linnea and I each had about 4 rehearsals. These guys have been working since September, but Linnea picked this up very quickly.
Yeah, she would question.
Maybe just talk about your comedic intent.
Yeah, that's it's the first time I've ever done a full Shakespearean play, and it's all kind of new to me. I really don't know. You know, it was really just kind of feeling my way through it and trying to find myself in the character outside of his obvious snobbery and arrogance, and then trying to bring something comedic into it. So I guess I just kind of channeled that. If I could speak to just one issue, I think beyond the beauty, the obvious beauty of what Shakespeare brings, one thing that's wonderful is that all of these hundreds of years later, that Shakespeare is helping to change and reform men's lives and hearts by being introduced to something beyond themselves and what they've known. And that's why programs like this are so very vital, because what you're looking at is not just art. You're looking at reformation and rehabilitation of individuals who have been denied so much by a society that doesn't see that we have any worth, and we've dug inside of ourselves to go beyond ourselves in order to change, grow, and offer back to society what we have and the opportunity that we have been afforded us here at San Quentin. So enjoy it for the fullness of what it is, because it goes way beyond the words. It's about the heart.
Let the church say amen. Amen. No, that's something that I wanted to actually speak to, is that how what we've done and what we do is more than just the words. I mean, because you know, I'm an old roughneck from off the block, right? And so when you first give me some words, first of all, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be sitting, especially in prison, doing Shakespeare, right? That was like the furthest thought from my mind. And so with any words, you give us some words and they just words on a piece of paper. And you have to give emotion to those words. You have to give content to those words. And for me, when I can do it for these words on a sheet of paper, especially some Shakespearean words, it's like, you know, I'm speaking Japanese, you know, when I first hear Shakespeare, it's like somebody speaking a foreign language to me. So you give some context and some emotion and some understanding to these words, that's emotional intelligence. That's maturity. So if you can look at these words and do it on a sheet of paper, I in turn equate that to being able to do it throughout my day in my regular life. You know, because it really takes a lot to be up here in front of y'all, to give these words some context, and then just to have fun with it, to be your authentic self, just to be who you are. So I want to thank everybody for that, and echo what Mike said about the importance of programs like this, because the bottom line is that men are getting out of prison, and the question I keep asking society is, how do you want them to return?
Bingo. Great, so I think we have time for one or two more questions. I want to thank, though before I forget, Bob Courier and Jackson Courier for standing in.
Can I just say something? You know, we do these exercises, concentration exercises, and if you mess up, you have to do the chicken dance. And since Bone missed his first few entrants,
before I do a chicken dance, I was out speaking to an attorney, right? Freedom first, right? I'm gonna give you a chicken dance on GP.
All right, so I saw Aldo had his hand up, Tony, you had your hand up. So Aldo, did you have a question for the guys?
Michael, I haven't spoke to it. I wanted to know how, in developing the character, you make choices and how that affects the choices that you make in your daily life, and then when you're in here and when you get out, how's that going to affect it? And he spoke about it, you.
Great, okay, so you feel like you had your question answered. Great, okay, Tony?
So on a simpler level, how do you feel at the end of the day when you leave all of this and go back to the rest of the...
Can I clap?
Michael, you want to take that one? So maybe pass the mic down.
From different backgrounds and different religions and cultures and traditions. We leave all of that behind and come here together, and we check on one another. We've built relationships that we can take with us anywhere, you know? And that's priceless, you know? And I like to believe that I'm a better man today because of this. I'm glad to have these people in my life today. And I'm glad that each one of you found the time to come in. Thank you.
These men are our brothers. We are brothers. We are a troupe. We're truly Shakespearean actors. If you knew what we had to go through, what she had to go through to get this production to come on, you truly feel like it's the old days, because we have come against so much to do this one thing. We only got in this chapel this morning and rehearsed the first time we've ever rehearsed in this chapel. We only had about an hour to get it done, get the props up, get everything done. But I'll tell you this, when I walk back into that block, every one of these guys are my brothers. But prison isn't like that. But we try to make it like that because we can.
We shall.
Great. All right, all the way in the back of the first grade. Yes. Question? Oh, so sorry. Okay, Michael, Anthony, and then in the back, I'll take our last question in the back.
I'm a little guy. Nobody sees me. Hi. I've never, ever in my life acted. I've never even thought about acting. I've never read Shakespeare, but I got involved in this, and it's like the best thing that ever happened to me, because when I'm doing Shakespeare, when I'm rehearsing, when I'm playing a part, it's a whole different world that I get to immerse myself in. And it's a way of relieving the stress and the tension of prison life. And I greatly appreciate this opportunity.
Great, thank you.
It was a small comment. I wanted to address your question. How do I feel after performing something like this? Getting kind of emotional right now. You guys excuse me. I just moved to the board a few months ago. I've been out 22 years. And on November 23rd, 1986, I made the front page of Los Angeles Times for murder. Last year when we did this play, I made the front page for Shakespeare. So when I go back to that dorm, last year we were on a high for like 3 months. They treat us like we're celebrities. I'm getting celebrity treatment right here. And I actually took that paper to the boardroom, and I told them, I said, yeah, I was a bad guy back then, and I negatively affected many lives. And in this newspaper right here, I'm affecting people even though I'm in prison. So I'm not that person that committed it. I'm not the same person that I was back then. So I feel great. Thank you.
Question? Yes.
Yes, I've seen some very telling words and stories being told of love, jealousy, and hate. And I wanted to know, and really you've answered the question, but I will ask it again. What are some of the redeeming values that Shakespeare has brought into your lives as prisoners? It seemed like we wasn't prisoners on stage.
Exactly.
For a moment, I myself had been taken out of San Quentin as I was being entertained by Shakespeare. Also, how does it affect you as Marin Shakespeare members coming into San Quentin and being able to interact with these prisoners, convicts?
Okay, so that's a two-part question, and I think it'll be our last question, and then we'll break, and if you guys want to stick around and ask guys and women questions personally, we can do that. So, yeah, go ahead.
I want to say something. When I said like crap a minute ago, I was kind of joking, but in a way, I meant it, and the reason, and this is my reason, is because for me, all this, it evolves me beyond this prison. Right? And so when I leave here, that's right, I got to go back to a cell. You know what I mean? And I got to go back to a place that is a reminder of all the bad I used to be. And I'm not that person anymore. You know what I'm saying? I'm a whole different individual. I got a whole different aspirations, a whole different goals. I know who I am. I know what I want to be in life. But I have to go back to a cell until my debt to society is completed. And so that's why I say, in that regard, that I still feel like I'm being contained. And I'm so ready to move beyond prison, but I can't.
Most of us in the group of lifers, we're going to be going back to the streets one day. And you've heard all the stories about how hard it is, okay? And we have this mercy of prison to do Shakespeare. There's a line out of W.H. Auden's poem, 1939. Those to whom harm is done do harm in return, but we flipped the script. Okay, here we are. Okay, we gave love, and we got love in return. Okay, that speaks to me about the humanity I'm looking forward to living with out on the streets. Okay, this is what I'm about now. Thank you.
All right. And any last comment to address the redeeming value of programs like this?
I just want to say, as artistic director, someone who spends his life working with the mystery and the wonder of Shakespeare, welcome to the club, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
I hadn't really answered the part of the question about what it's like for them to come in.
I was going to go to that next.
The question that Raphael asked, I want to address that, please. How do we feel? You said that we took you away from this place for a while, and that's a good thing. That was one of our goals, to take everybody away from this place, this expensive beachfront property. Are we selling it or not? No. Basically, we all are working to work together to be better. It is a privilege and an honor to do this, to do Shakespeare, to taste the words, to smell that time, to feel it like a cloak, a warm cloak around you, and to go someplace safe and warm. And that's a good thing, because when Shakespeare wrote this, I don't think he really imagined that so many years later that people would be in a place like this and performing. We're in Shakespeare, they've been so gracious and kind, and we owe them a great thank you, so thank you. Just basically off the subject, the gentleman who painted the set back there, his work is also in the Library of Congress. So he's a very talented artist, and he's a very kind man, and he does great work. Arts and corrections is important. Steve Emmerich is important, and he's done a lot of helpful things for us and for this institution. And he also got an award from the Dalai Lama not too long ago. We want to thank Pastor Curry for his kindness and his graciousness and his never-ending support of the arts. And this is a way to basically give thanks to the universe, whatever you believe in. So I definitely want to say thank you to Pastor Curry, especially for all the other programs that he allows to come in here, and we are a part of that, and it's a positive thing, and we thank him for that. So, but it's been a great time. We've had a great day, and basically all of us up here, we want to be better. These are the things that the Board of Prison Terms should see before they apply Margie's Law. These are the people, these are the things that we should see, because we want to give you love. And one thing they don't teach in prison is how to love. They don't teach us that. There's not one class in any prison that just teaches how to love. Shakespeare. It'd be nice and this is the class. This is that class. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Leslie and Lene a chance to answer Raphael's question about what it's like to come from Red Shakespeare and come in and work here. And then I think we'll close.
My mind is racing to try to find something profound to say has been said in this room in the last half an hour. The only thing I can tell you is that when I came at first, I was scared. But now I feel like I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I just feel like that this is the reason why I've been put on this earth. This is one of the reasons why I have it in my heart to act, to share it with these men, and to be open and available for them. And I'm just really glad that I got the call from Leslie to do it, so that the gift that I've been given can be given back. And I'm just really happy right now. That's profound.
Bob and I have had the great privilege to create Marin Shakespeare Company and run it for the last 20 years. And we do Shakespeare with all sorts of people, 5, 6, 7-year-olds in our camps. We go down to Mexico every year, a little town in the middle of nowhere, and do Shakespeare with rank amateurs. We get to work with the best actors in the world, like Aldo Billingsley on our main stage, and kids of all ages. We go into schools, and to do Shakespeare with these guys there are some similarities. Everybody talks about that coming together to create something, the ensemble, having to work together, having to improvise in the moment, the greatness of the words, discovering the characters, making them your own, finding the relevance in the words and the language. And the magic of Shakespeare, there's so much more there to be found all the time. Of course, working with these guys is a little different also. And it's very sad for me sometimes. It's really sad, the circumstances. It's sad, the circumstances in the world that got these guys to a place in their lives that that made them make the choices in their lives that they made to get here. I can't come in here without thinking about the sadness of the many families out there whose lives have been affected by the men in here. And what's really sad for me is that these guys are so smart, so articulate, so funny, so talented, and yet it's going to be a while before they can come out in the world and share that with a lot of people. So we're very pleased to be able to do this program. This is my first time acting with you guys in a long time. Although you don't remember, I've acted with you all before, but it's really great to be able to do it here in the chapel and have a good-sized audience. And hopefully next time H Block will be open for a performance as well.
Great, thank you, Leslie. I think for me, in a nutshell, coming into, I worked in prison and jail system for almost 6 years, and the cliche that comes to mind is you treat people with hate, you get more hate back, right? You treat people with kindness, loving kindness, you get loving kindness back. So I don't understand how treating people with more hate and oppression can turn into anything good myself. So that's why I come in here, is to bring something positive and bring loving kindness to the world. And that's what I feel like I get back here. So thanks to the guys, because we have a great time in our Shakespeare class. So thank you also to Sam Robinson. I'm sorry for making this possible. I know